What up, everyone? So we are back to do another movie review here with Sir David Wilson.
Hello.
And me. We just saw X-Men Age of Apocalypse, so we'll do a quick little review. We'll try to keep it short, but we'll do the best we can because we're not that good at keeping it short. Anyway, let's start off with initial thoughts.
I liked it. I saw the reviews of it, and it was like, eh. And so I think that kind of helped because it put my expectations a little lower. So, and then I went in there and I walked out, and I was like, that wasn't that bad. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
I think I've gotten pretty good at knowing how good a movie's going to be. Like, previews, you can pretty much tell. And also, I always do, not necessarily try to do research, but I always find out about it. And we always end up talking about it, so I usually get a pretty good concept of it. I heard it got low ratings and a low score, but I didn't really pay attention to that. But it's pretty much what I thought. I don't think it definitely wasn't a bad movie. I don't really have major complaints about it, but I don't think it was great either. I don't think there was anything I have to really say about it that was like, oh, I loved this. But the same thing where I don't think there was anything particularly bad about it. It was in the middle. It was enjoyable. It was entertaining. I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't go see it again.
Ever?
No, I don't know if I would. It's
like, see it again in theaters, or like if it came out on DVD, you wouldn't watch it again?
I don't think I'd like get the DVD or watch it again. Like, I don't think there was enough there for me to see. Like, I liked First Class and Days of Futures Past. I liked them way better, and I'd watch those again. But this one, it was just like, I don't think I would. I don't think that much happened in it, to be quite honest. That's what I was saying. Like, I don't think a lot of events happen. There's a lot of introductions and new characters, kinda, or reintroduction of characters with new actors, which I like that, but there just wasn't that much story. It was like Apocalypse was created, and then he found the four horsemen, and then there was a lot of backstory of other characters, but there were so many. There was a lot of different backstories, and it was like, okay. And then it was just kind of the final battle scene, and that was it. And I was like, all right.
You're missing over a few cool parts.
Yeah. And I don't know enough about the storyline to really relate it to anything. And I don't know if there was like a specific comic series for like Age of Apocalypse. I know who Apocalypse is. I'd seen him a million times, cartoons, comics, but I don't ever remember like a specific story with Apocalypse specifically. I know he appeared. I remember him from the '90s.
Yeah, that's
cartoon.
how I remember.
That's who
I remember from the '90s cartoon, and I just remember like Mr. Sinister, and like they're trying to make a clone of like Jean, or they're making them have a baby, Scott and Jean, to make the, I don't know, something that I can barely remember. It was just from the '90s cartoon.
Yeah. So I definitely recognize the character, but I don't remember too much about him. And I had to ask around like what his actual powers were, and they explained it a little bit in the movies, and it was good and stuff. But yeah, there's still like something I was thinking about is like a good movie shouldn't leave you with any questions at the end of it. You should have all the answers you need in a movie. And there's various parts in it where I'm like, well, why did that happen? Or why is this? And like, would that actually happen that way? And it was like, I don't know. There's a little bit, some loose ends there, and yeah, it just kind of bothered me.
One of the things that I hate when they do in movies is they want to show that the villain is really powerful or whatever, in this case. So he will literally, he looks at someone, boom, turns him to dust. Like instantly. Or instantly their head just explodes, right? But then it's like fighting the X-Men, it's like, oh, I'm having trouble. It's like, why don't you just turn him to dust? Like, why? Like, it's like, don't make him so powerful against random people on the street, and then it's like, once you face the other superheroes, it's like, oh, I'm weak now. It's like, I don't know. They shouldn't have just done that to begin with. They should have made things a little harder for him against the randoms, instead of just going, yeah, I don't know.
And that was one of the questions I had. When he was in like the metal place, the steel mill or whatever you want to call it, and he killed all those guys, and I was like, you understand, like, he's powerful and stuff, but like, how did he kill him? Like, what was his power that he did there?
I think he can change matter into anything he wants.
That's what
so
it
he
seemed
changed
like.
the people into dust.
I guess, and then that's where it's like, oh, that seems plausible, but it was still like, there wasn't much of an explanation. But that's where it's like, you have to take a second to think like, well, what happened? And it's like, it's when you have to do that in a movie, it pulls you out of the movie. It pulls you back into reality because you have to actually think about it.
I guess for the average person, yeah, you wouldn't really know. Like, if like I'm sure like, you know, the people that we went, if they didn't know who Apocalypse was, they're like, oh yeah, what did just happen?
Even I knew who he was, and it kind of seemed like he can control matter or even control like basic elements or something along that. But they didn't ever really actually say it, so we don't really know. We're just kind of speculating.
Yeah.
And no one really wanted to, but I think everyone still is going to compare it to Civil War because we just saw it last month, which was fantastic. And I would compare it to that where it's like, there was no questions like that in that movie. There was, everything happened, it was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, obviously it's not technically plausible, it's all science fiction, but it didn't. I never had a spot where I'm like, well, what? It's like, no, it kind of made sense. But one thing I did really appreciate about the movie, but probably my favorite part, is I really liked the costumes. I liked that they had like throwback costumes.
They did. They like redid them, but they're pretty much towards the end. They kind of get their costumes.
Yeah, I like the end where they had the costumes that actually look like the '90s. Like Nightcrawler had his like V thing, Cyclops had his little cross.
Mystique even had the little white thing.
Had the little white thing there, so it was a modern age version of those suits. So I thought that was just cool enough by itself. I thought that.
Except it was dumb. At the very end, they all get ready for the Danger Room. Out come the Sentinels, and they end it. And I'm like, what?
I figured they were gonna do that.
And Nightcrawler comes out and goes,
yeah, does this weird hiss thing for no reason, which was really awkward. But everyone does a cool pose, and Nightcrawler hisses.
Like Cyclops like turns around, you get to see him in his goggles for the first time, his little laser beam things, and then like I don't know what
Storm had some lightning thing going. Everyone basically showed off their powers, and Nightcrawler turns around and does like he's like, it's like, why wouldn't you teleport or something like that? Isn't that what you do? So yeah, there's little stuff like that where it's like, okay, like who decided that? But my favorite part by far, and I think a lot of people's was Wolverine, and it got spoiled online that he was going to appear in it. It was supposed to be a surprise.
And then they put it in the trailer.
And then they ended up putting it in the trailer. But it was really cool to see, and that was awesome. And they had him in the Weapon X 90s Weapon X outfit where he had the...
The only difference was normally it covered his whole eyes, it's like this little dome. But it's Hugh Jackman, so like, we need to show his face, so it covered like half of it.
But I thought that was really cool. I was super excited about that.
And it was, in the Weapon X storyline, he's with the Weapon X and he destroys and does all those things. But then he like escapes. In this, it shows how he escaped, which I thought was pretty cool. And he goes berserk. Like you think like, oh, he's just gonna kill a couple people and that'll be it, right? And I was like, this is like rated R. There's blood everywhere.
Yeah, it was
like
much
blood
more
all over the floor. I'm like,
much more violent than I thought, especially.
And it went on and on.
Even in the very beginning, they were like, because usually you see explosions and stuff, but they don't actually show people dying. Even in the beginning, they showed people dying. Like people were getting smashed by boulders, and like it kept happening. Like someone would go and then someone would get smashed by a boulder. I'm like. Oh,
or like Magneto took his little like pocket watch and like went through the necks of everyone.
And then you saw that happening. Yeah. And then the same with Apocalypse, where he the part where he killed those like Arab guys, and they got decapitated. You saw their heads roll off. And then same thing with Wolverine. You saw like blood spatters and stuff. It could have been much more violent, obviously, but yeah, I was surprised they showed it.
A lot.
There was a lot of it. I'm like, okay.
For a PG-13.
And then they dropped the F-bomb in there too, and I'm
they're
like,
allowed one, I think.
Well, there's no like limit, but yeah, even still, it's like usually like one of those or violence. But this one kind of had both. And it was like, oh, they're really kind of pushing the limits there. That's cool. Yeah. Which I'm stoked the new Wolverine's gonna be rated R. That's badass. Super stoked about that. But yeah, so yeah, it had some violence. I was impressed by that. So that's not good or bad or anything, but I was just impressed that they showed all that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, there's another Quicksilver scene which was still funny. I mean, obviously it was the second time you'd see this kind of scene like in Days of Future Past, but it was still, I don't know, still funny. And the whole time I'm like, they're not going to bring Quicksilver because he just seems too powerful compared to everyone else. But Apocalypse stopped him.
Yeah. Yeah,
very slowly.
That was one of my favorite scenes in Days of Future Past, and this one too. It was a funny scene where it's like, it's cool, it breaks the tension, so yeah, I like that a lot too.
A good amount of people died, I think.
No, I just Havoc.
And Angel.
He didn't die. Oh yeah, yes, no, he did die. I totally forgot about that, yeah.
He fell in the plane, he's all bloody.
That's right, I totally forgot about that. Because I was saying, yeah, they didn't kill anyone off, but they totally did. I forgot about that. Havoc died, and then Archangel.
And I want to say someone else died.
Apocalypse.
Everyone in the Wolverine cage thing, and where Blob died.
I don't know if he necessarily did. Yeah.
Well, they said one of us has to die, or they're gonna kill us, or something like that. We have to fight. Yeah. So Blob dies. You don't really ever see his face. You see he's in the cool like '80s black with the yellow stripe.
Yeah. So I like they did that with costumes. But one thing I've never thought the X movies did well is the action scenes. They've never done super well at it. They always try really hard, and the CGI is always okay.
Yeah,
like it's never.
There's some parts that weren't that good.
CGI is never great ever in any movie, but it's also the stunts they do. They put a lot of effort into it. You can see that, but it just never looks natural. You can tell that they're not using CGI for stunts. They're using the old wire technique, which is cool. I respect that, but it always just looks very stiff. Like every time someone gets like flung across the room, they're like, like in this weird pose, and then they get flung. It just doesn't ever look natural, and it never has. From as long as I can remember the X-Men movies, like every time Beast did like a big leap or something like that, or jumped off the second-story balcony, it was just always very obviously a wire technique where they would like jump up and freeze, and then like slowly land down. And it's just like, it's not that bad, but it's just for as long as I can remember, it's always X-Men. Like Marvel does it fine.
I think maybe it's Bryan Singer's way. Like he's always been the director. Maybe that's like what he likes to do.
Or maybe he's just hiring the same people to do the stunts, so that's what it is. And again, it's not bad. It's just not as good. Like when I see Marvel movies and you see people getting flung around, it looks natural because you see it a lot. And these ones, it's just always very stringy, and it's just like, especially. There's the funny part where remember when towards the end when Beast like jumped down with Cyclops, he's like, "Let's jump down," and he's like, "What?" And then they just like jumped, and I'm like,
it's like
you didn't help him at all. By the way, he could have done that himself. He just like jumped next to him, had his hand on his shoulder. It's like, I'm helping you. We're jumping together. I'm lifting you by the shoulder. I'm like, you didn't do anything. He couldn't have jumped that. Like that was weird.
There was also this one really around the same part. So it's Psylocke, which I didn't know. I thought she just like turns her. She can make like a sword, out of energy, and so she makes a whip out of energy, and she's like whipping around things. She cuts a building in half with this whip. Then she whips it around Beast's neck, and he's like, "Oh, I'm choking." I'm like, "That'll go straight through you. You whipped a building in half." But now it's just like, oh, that's just choking me. And then he kicks her. And
that's part of the problem, too. Like you were saying before, they build up powers too much, and then when it gets to a fight scene, they're, like, super weak and, like, evenly matched. And it's like... And that's where
because certain people don't have the same powers.
Exactly. And then that's where I was saying, like, where Apocalypse was giving people power, and they all of a sudden become, like, almighty powerful. Like, Magneto is controlling the entire planet. And it's like, well, that doesn't really match up with what they've kind of done beforehand, because it loops around with the whole timeline, and it's just like... That's too powerful. Like, what are you gonna do now? Like, he's controlling the entire planet. Like, how could you continue that storyline? And yeah, same thing with Psylocke. He's cutting people in half, but doesn't cut through Beast hair. Beast hair is impenetrable.
Okay, by the way, he was too blue.
So was Mystique. I said the same thing in the trailer when they did it. It was just like there's no variation. It's just like they took a shotgun of blue paint and just like shot it on there. Like, it's still skin texture. They gotta like do variations of just like we have skin. It's red and like lighter here.
Yeah.
You gotta do some variation, but it was just like, you're blue, you're nothing but blue.
Well, it was in her contract that she didn't want to get in the stupid suit, like the 8-hour body paint or whatever. So she's in this rubber suit that she puts on. It only takes like an hour or something because she's like overdoing it.
I would be too.
But Beast was super blue, like really bright blue, like too bright. Like, I was just like, did he just get brighter as, like, the movie franchise continues? He's, too blue.
Yeah, and they could have done some variation. Like, Nightcrawler, he looked fine because he has black hair, and then he has some different colors.
Emo.
Well, it's 80s. He's got the Flock of Seagulls thing going on. Like, that's his thing. Yeah, and I thought he looked cool, too. But yeah. And that made me realize this movie, how many blue characters there are. Like, there's Apocalypse, there's Mystique, there's Nightcrawler, and there was Beast. And it's just like, when they were creating these characters, they're like, we have pens, pencils, and one blue marker. Figure it out, guys. If you can't make this work. And Cyclops is technically blue, his suit's blue, and the X-Men colors are yellow and blue.
Is Jean Grey's suit blue?
I don't know if it was in this one, but in the 90s one, it was yellow and blue.
Yeah.
So it was either yellow...
I think when her last thing was a little yellow and a little blue, maybe.
Hers was different. She had some red. She had like a red spike in there, and I think that was more for the Phoenix thing. Hers was the only thing that didn't look 90s, but it was like... But yeah, it just made me realize like X-Men, and even their logo was yellow and blue. It was like, it's just blue is very dominant in pretty much the entire franchise.
I think, they're mostly always blue.
Mostly always blue. This movie just made me realize, and again, nothing wrong with that. It's just like, they were a big fan of blue. It was their favorite color.
By the way, the actress, whoever plays Jean Grey, really hot. I had no idea who she was, and I was like, oh, Jean Grey's hot.
I thought she was okay.
I don't know, I thought she's hot.
She's alright. Yeah, the casting choices I always thought were a bit odd. Like, obviously they hit a home run with, like, Hugh Jackman, but... And then, after that, I think the guy that plays Magneto, I think he's awesome.
Oh, yeah. Magneto, and then James McAvoy's Professor X.
Yeah, those guys are like phenomenal actors.
They
all
are
around.
basically this franchise, but I think they're gonna like pass it on to this younger group because the next one they're doing is in the 90s. They want to do every 10 years.
Oh, really?
And eventually, then they'll do the 2000s, then the 2010, and by then we'll be in the 2020s.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're great actors and they really hold it together. Everyone else, most of the other characters I thought was like not really bad choices, but I'm just like, of all the people, like why them? Even with Mystique, what's her name?
Jennifer Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence, I've never been a fan of hers.
No.
Ever. She's fine. She's a decent actress, but she's just always like, I'm just like, of all the people in the world, like she's pretty famous. Like you could have gotten a lot of people. I'm like, that's who you got?
Well, the problem with this movie is they make it kind of like with the last one. It's Mystique's movie almost because Jennifer Lawrence is a big actor. We have her under contract. Might as well use her as much as possible. And you're just like, why is she like the central of the story again?
Yeah.
And it's like move along. Like she has to be in every scene, and she's always in her human form for pretty much the whole time. She never even she used her powers one time.
When she got a Russian guy?
Yeah, when she got Nightcrawler.
So she could be like, that way.
Yeah, that's all she did. That way. One time she used her powers. That was it.
Yeah.
Rest of the time she's just in a human form, walking around, and I was like, she'd be destroyed. But she has zero powers. Like she's only good because she can pretend to be someone else and then get into things and stuff like that.
That's the same thing I thought about Rose Byrne's character. The girl that has no powers, that Xavier's friend. What's her character? Moira.
Moira McTaggart or whatever.
Yeah, Moira. So basically,
why is she there?
She's completely useless. It's like April O'Neil and the Turtles, where it's just like it was cool to see her again because it was like a throwback to the first one. But it's just like, hey, we're gonna go stop Apocalypse, but save the world. She's like, I'll come with. Like, no. Don't come with us. You are going to die. Like,
Okay.
You could do nothing there. Please hide in the corner somewhere.
Another thing is, so Stryker destroys all the mutants, disables them, and then he points at her and picks her. I'm like, why? Why would you pick her? A CIA agent? What's the point? And then she's in there. And she's like, I'm CIA. Let me go. Oh, I know who you are. And then that's it. It's like, why did you pick her? Like, why? Why are you picking her and putting her in a cell? And then they get saved, and then they're like, oh, let's get in a plane and go fight a mutant. Yeah, let's bring the human along. Doesn't even have a gun. Yeah. Doesn't have anything. Yeah. What is she going to do? Literally, what is she going to do?
I think her and Stryker, it seems like they were there strictly for cameo purposes. Because the same with Stryker. He showed up, and then Wolverine got out, and he's like, well, my cameo's over. I better get the fuck out of here. Like, I don't want to stay for this scene. And I think it was the same with Rose Byrne. Like, they made her kind of important because she was a CIA agent and she had information at the point. And then Xavier goes and asks her instead of just, probing her mind.
But she did absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, it was fine when he went there to get the information and whatever.
I forgot she was there. When Xavier was dying, she's like, oh no. And I'm like, oh, you're here too.
It's almost like they did that so they can have some kind of love interest at all in the film. And that was their little Xavier and love interests.
I guess so. What part did because she's a comic book character. She was in the comics, right, Moira? Mm-hmm. What was she in the comics? Because I remember
she worked on some island or something. I want to say, I don't know. No, they had a love interest kind of thing.
Because
and
in the X-Men 3, wasn't she a nurse or something? Maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but I remember
she wasn't a CIA agent in the comic
I remember the final credits scene in X-Men 3 was Xavier coming back to life after he got killed in this dead body stiff, and the movie ended where he's like, hello, Moira. Or whatever her name is, and she was a nurse or something there, something like that. But
I kind of remember the scene, but I don't remember.
Yeah,
if that was or whatever.
So she's a character. She's from stuff, but she just seems like the name's there, and wherever she can get placed, she just is.
Yeah,
that
it's kind of like, oh, we have a big actor, let's just put him somewhere. When you don't need to. She really didn't add anything at all, just filled up space.
Yeah,
she literally just laid on the ground the entire fight. She sat there. I'm not even joking. Laid, cross-legged, and it was just the whole fight. What could she do? She couldn't do anything. She just sat next to Xavier. And Xavier's doing mind battles.
She should have met with Apocalypse and gotten some kind of boost in whatever she does. Been super
I will give
CIA
you a boost. And it's oh, you have no powers. You got a boost in nothing.
Hair grows or something like that.
Yeah.
Something weird. So yeah, that's pretty much our review. We don't want to ramble too much because we can go on for days. So let's end it off with score 1 through 10. What would you give this?
I would give it a 7 or 7.5.
I was gonna go with a 6.
Really?
Yeah, I was gonna put it kind of lower. I don't know. I just thought it definitely wasn't bad.
I thought it was better than Batman v Superman.
And I wouldn't even say that because I was more entertained by Batman Superman because there was I would say basically there was Batman Superman had high highs and low lows, and it kind of evened out in the middle. Where this one just kind of was in the middle. There was nothing that great about it, but there's nothing bad about it. Batman v Superman.
Wolverine scene.
It was cool, but it was like 2 seconds. But Batman v
not
Superman.
2 seconds. It was a good solid 5 minutes.
Okay, whatever. But Batman v Superman basically had like a lot of things wrong with it that people really hated, but it also had cool stuff in it. I still liked a lot of it. There were still cool parts in it. I still liked that Batman was in there. I still liked Ben Affleck as Batman. It really stood out. I liked that they did stuff. Like there was things in there where I'm like, I really like that.
Yeah, I would feel like Batman v Superman, the stuff I just hated. Like, I was like, oh, so terrible. Like, Lex Luthor, their whole plot. Like, why are you fighting Martha? Oh, I just could not stand that stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, this one didn't have anything I really hated, but it had a couple, like, really great scenes, but it was kind of like, you know, a ho-hum story with, like...
That's why I gave it a 6, because it's just, like, kind of... It was on this side of good, but it just kind of...
I would say it was, like... a 6.5, but then it had some pretty cool scenes in it that boosted up to that 7 to 7.5.
Well, we'll have to see what you guys think.
I don't mind the new cast, the new team.
I don't mind them, but I just feel like it could have been different or better.
Like, I kind of like Nightcrawler, I like Jean Grey, I like Scott Summers. Storm had 2 lines. Pretty much all the new X-Men had 2 lines other than, like, Scott, Jean Grey, and Nightcrawler.
Yeah, because cause like I said, they're doing too many new backstories. So if they do,
but they don't even have lines. They literally Jubilee says nothing.
Oh yeah, I was kind of hoping Jubilee would do something with her powers. I was
because
really looking forward to that.
They put her in all like the ads and like before like the magazines and stuff. It's like, oh, Jubilee is in it, and then she literally said not one single line, and she went to the mall with them. Oh no,
she did, because wasn't she the one that said like, oh, that's Scott, he's a bitter humdrum or whatever.
No, I thought that was...
Was that Jean?
Yeah, I think the only thing she said was the Return of the Jedi joke.
Or maybe that's what it was. Yeah, I was kind of hoping that she'd show off her powers, because I thought that would have been cool.
None
and then, obviously, I think Psylocke will make an appearance, because she did that awkward walk away. At the end where she got up, she, like, looked back, and then walked away a little more, and then looked back. Yeah. It's like, get out of here! Go! And no one needs you anymore.
She had 2 lines.
Yeah, and it's like, and then again, like, how are you gonna leave there? You're just gonna walk home from Egypt?
Yeah.
Just like walks away. It's like, where you gonna go?
There's 2 things that kind of like. One thing was they were in the school, and normally when they show the school and all the kids are playing in the park or the basketball stuff, they're showing off their powers. No one showed off their powers. They just kind of all stood there and did nothing.
True.
Like, you know, the background kids like playing basketball or like in the field or whatever. Normally they're showing off their powers, like, hey, you can't do that, cheating or something like that. Nothing. Not a single. They just look like normal kids. And then there's this one stupid part at the very end after Egypt is like flattened and they had their huge battle and the only people there were like the mutants fighting. There's like this newscaster that's broadcasting and he goes, yeah, there's this massive fight in Egypt and Magneto, he was on the good side because he did something bad, so everyone said he was the bad guy. And I'm like, where did you get this information from? No one was there. Everyone was dead.
That's where I said Xavier probably had something to do with that because he's trying to give him a better life because he's came back and then he's going out again, so I'm sure he's trying to give him a better life, so I'm sure he had something to do with that. But again, that's where it's like, they don't explain it, it's just like, you gotta speculate and assume. It's like, okay.
Magneto's still probably the best character in the film franchise, and Michael Fassbender definitely does a pretty good job.
Who's that?
The actor.
Oh, that's the actor, Maggie.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like him. He's good.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
What do we have next?
Turtles is next. I don't know if we'll be doing a review. He'll be out of town for that one, so I might do one. But I don't know if that's going to be big enough to where people need a review of it. But other than that, it'll be definitely Suicide Squad. I think I'm going to see Ghostbusters at it. I think we should and do a review of it because I think people will want to know because I think we'll have a lot to talk about.
Oh my god! I
think we should because it looks interesting. It looks interesting.
We saw a trailer for it in front of this. I've seen the trailer before in front of this movie, and so the first 5 seconds they're like, "Oh, okay, let's do something really scary." It's like you have the creepy people slowly walking over, and the ghosts come at you, and I'm like, and it's kind of eerie looking, and it's like, why didn't you make that movie? And then after that 5 seconds, it goes to like, what's that guy's name? Who's on Mad TV? He plays, whatever that kid Stewart or whatever the actor's name is, and he's like he says something stupid, and then I guess it goes into corny, awful, terrible.
So I think we should see that and do a review. That's my vote. But if not that, definitely Suicide Squad. I'm super excited for that. That's one of my top picks for the year. I am definitely excited for it. That should be a fantastic.
Yeah, it will be like a lull. Like I feel like summer. Before summer even started, all the good stuff came first, and now it's just gonna be like, all right, here's the summer movies, and it's just like nothing. Like honestly,
it's kind of shifted to like a beginning of the year type of thing versus summer. Because I remember last year too, there was like July was like not that big, or Independence Day, which I doubt.
I think it goes like this: all the superheroes get all the beginning, and then they get the tail end of summer, and then they get Christmas around that time, and then all non-comic book movies, superhero movies, they get the rest of the normal summer.
Filler. Yeah, pretty much. So, if nothing else, definitely Suicide Squad, but maybe like a Turtles or a Ghostbusters. So we'll see.
I think that's, other than that, there's just, Independence Day, which, honestly...
I definitely want to see it. It looks cool,
I think it reminds me of Battleship. Like that, just...
Never saw it.
Or like Pacific Rim.
Or it's just like too much CGI.
Just like tons of CGI nonstop, and you have no idea what's going on, and it's just like, honestly, the only way it will save the movie for me to like want to watch it is if the aliens actually destroy the whole planet.
I was kind of thinking that might happen.
And I'm like, sweet, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like a twist, like, oh, we're gonna stop them this time. Like, no, you're not. Destroyed.
But anyway, that's for another review. So we have to stop our rambling. So, this has been the review of X-Men Age of Apocalypse. So we'll see you on the next review, whatever that may be. So let us know what you guys thought about it. Let us know your ratings, what you thought was good, what you thought was bad. Give us your opinions. Let's talk in the comments. Check out David's channel. We'll see you on the next one. Love you all. Peace.